Welcome to the Commander's Journey, a journey for new Commander players ready to uncover their hidden magic potential.
Welcome back. I'm Joel.
And I'm Alex.
And today we have another deck tech for you. You know those elves that just came out, Alex? We're going to do those this time around.
You know, Joel, when we were talking about the decks and you're like, I'm going to get elves. I'm like, oh boy, we got an elf player up in here. This is this will be interesting. So this is Joel's experiment with elves.
I guess so. And so just before we start, I just want to give a quick plug to our own channel, the one you're listening to, Commander's Journey. We're very small. We're just doing this mostly out of the love of the game. And feel free to subscribe, please, if you do. And or what I really want to ask is take a look at our videos, our playlists. And really the playlists give a good idea of some of the things we've tried out. And we want to know what you guys like. Just like leave a comment below. I mean, are you more into doing more deck techs? We try and do set reviews. We've tried a few different things like hidden gems. I think people are liking that. We do some under hundreds, which that was last week with Jorn. And we were just trying a few things. Anyways, if there's like a thing, a topic, an idea, or something that you like that you're interested in, let us know. I do know we got a comment a little while ago, Alex. We haven't really talked about it, or somebody's submitted a deck tech list, and that maybe we can look at and come up with upgrades. We are not like major professional deck builders, but we just do it for the fun of it. And we kind of in our meta, we're like
deck tech doctor thing. I don't know.
Yeah. But we can, anyway, you have an idea, something, I just wanted to plug that real quick at the top. Let us know, because, we're always down for some interaction and stuff. So, elves. Yeah. I guess I gave into the elf precon this time around.
Yeah. I think we should do a precon each time. I think it's fun. And, with the elves, I'm giving Joel a little punch, but, elves are fantastic. They're great for the newer player. It's kind of hard to make elves bad. The bigger issue is how powerful do you make the elves compared to everyone else in your group? Because it's pretty easy to accidentally run away with power levels with elves. Yep. And so just keep that in mind when you're building it. Make sure, you're not outpacing the power level of your group. But other than that, elves are a lot of fun, and they're a great entryway into Magic, because again, it's hard you can't really play them wrong. They're just great.
And that's great especially for newer players like myself, which this is, if you'll notice, if you ever tune in, I'm the newer player. Been playing a little over a year, coming close to 2 years maybe here. And Alex, you've been playing for a while, so just try and keep it
by like 4 or 5 years, not even that much.
So anyway, we like to keep it chill. And so this is a kind of a chill upgrade, because we have, of course, the famed Lathril, Blade of the Elves. I'll go ahead and read it. It's 2 black and a green for legendary creature Elf Noble with Menace. And I will stop doing that. And then whenever Lathril, Blade of the Elves deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens. And you can tap it and tap 10 untapped elves you control. Each opponent loses 10 life, and you gain 10 life. And it is a 2/3. So I was naming this deck a bunch of things, and I don't know, Lathril.
Where did you end up?
The tapping elves deck, Golgari, elf
there
tappers. But basically, I thought that'd be a cool way to go. Is just to focus in on that tap effect, because with elves, like you said, they're already super awesome, and then you add black, the whole Aristocrat thing, it just can get really powerful. In our play group, we don't like to play these huge overpowered decks, so we're trying to keep our elf deck a little bit tamed down if we can.
Yeah.
If it's possible.
We're going to have to see where Joel's at this line or not. We haven't tested it very much in person, just with decks we're thinking about building online. But I do love Lathril. I love that it added this, life-draining Golgari component to an elf commander. That's something elves really did not have before. It really adds the options up, and the fact that it's so pushes you towards elf tokens, I think fits with it perfectly. Mm-hmm. Adds that Aristocrat style, which is why when I saw it, I'm like, oh, Joel's going elves.
Yeah,
I could see it from a mile away.
That was the first color I ever was drawn to, and that was the first style. With Teysa Karlov being my first commander, was that whole Aristocrat style of play. So yeah.
Well, there you go, Joel. You definitely like that aristocrat style. So, Joel, why don't you hit us up with the general game plan? I know we talked about it a little bit already.
Yeah, so we basically want like it. I try to get inspiration. Inspiration for the deck based on what the commander really wants to do, and what she really wants to do is tap a bunch of elves. So if we can make a lot of elf tokens, the precon comes with a lot of good cards. Already make a good amount of elf tokens, so we just added to that and added some other really great ways to make tokens. Make those tokens as quickly as you can, so you can use Lathril's ability to tap them down, drain your opponents for 10, gain that 10 life, kind of keeps giving you that buffer, which you might need if you're playing against big creatures that are smacking in on you, and elves don't do a great job of defending you because you're going wide. You're having as many elves across the board as you can. And then, just finding ways to abuse that a little bit. And then it has a little bit of like an aristocrat sub-theme of the draining. And, of course, I think the deck came with... I put different Overrun cards in here. The deck came with one or two, I think. The End-Raise Forerunners, which I took out. But
I like that card.
Yeah, but we added a few others back in that are also give you that Overrun effect. So if you have a ton of elves out and you can't do this stuff, you can use that as a last effort. But yeah, so the game plan is basically make a bunch of tokens, tap them down, and drain your opponents. That's what you want to do.
Exciting stuff, Joel. So do you have any good recommended cards, some game plan cards to help achieve this feat?
Yes, so if you have Lathril doing her thing, and then you also happen to have Seaborn Muse out, the only non-elf in the deck, but it's so good, it just had to be in there. It's a spirit. But you just basically untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step, right? So if you can do this effect, if you have 10 elves out and you tap them down, boom, drain, gain, and then the next person's turn, you do it again. The next person's turn, you do it again. But before it comes back to your turn, you've won the game with just Seaborn Muse. And if you happen to have Throne of God Pharaoh, you just do it a little bit quicker.
There you go.
Throne of the God Pharaoh's 2 for Legendary Artifact. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. So this one, you do that, you tap it, and then those are still tapped at the beginning of your end steps, right? And then they lose another 10. So it's just a really nasty way to win the game. Doesn't take a lot. So if you can get this out, or you're playing against somebody who has Lathril and they put Seaborn Muse or Throne of the God Pharaoh, you might want to think about getting rid of them.
I'll read a Seaborn Muse real quick too. It's 3 green, a green for a creature spirit. It says untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. It's a 2/4. Fantastic card.
Yeah, it's a great card in general because you can use all your mana again, right? And but especially in this deck, it's like, and I can drain you, by the way. Awesome. Yeah, and then you want to read the next? There's a few other game plan cards. I'm gonna let you read. I think that's usually the way we do it, right?
Yeah. I'll keep going. So the other one you got here is Ashnod's Altar. Ashnod's Altar is 3 mana. It's an artifact. Very simple. It says sacrifice creature, add 2 colorless to your mana pool. And the other one you have going is Elderfang Venom. Let me bring it up right here. It is 2 black and a green for an enchantment. Attacking elves you control have death touch. Whenever an elf you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is a new card with the deck too, as well, if I remember right, Joel.
Yes. This is in the precon, and the next one too.
Well, there you go. The last one was Poison Tip Archer, 2 green, 2 black and a green for a creature. Elf Archer has reach, death touch. Whenever another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. It's a 2/3.
Yeah, so basically this is the aristocrat style. So when you hear people say aristocrat, they're talking about that whole thing where that person just loses 1 life at a time. So if something dies or something happens, you lose 1 life, and you just want to keep doing it. With Ashnod's Altar out, you can sacrifice at instant speed. So if you have your 10 elves and you tapped them down or whatnot, and you needed to drain somebody all they had was 10 life left, you could just sacrifice all 10 of your elves to Ashnod's Altar. You create 20 colorless mana. If you can use it, that's great. But the idea would be you would want to have Elderfang or Poison Tip Archer. And I think there's another 1 or 2 cards in here that also have the same effect to drain your opponent and win the game or just knock them out of the game.
That's hard to deal with, too. I guess next we can move on to our synergistic ramp. We have a great card here, Elvish Archdruid, which is 1 green and a green for a creature elf druid. Other elf creatures you control get +1/+1, and tap it. Add green for each elf you control. It's a 2/2. Boy, is that a powerful I believe that's a reprint too. Holy cow, it's a powerful one.
It is a reprint, and this one came in the deck as well. This was just it's the most synergistic. Like we love to talk, we love to build decks that just have great synergy for ramp. You're making a bunch of tokens, so here you go. Just add a forest for every damn elf you got. So if you got 10 out, then you just got 10 extra. You know, if you don't have Lathril, you don't want to do that. Like, yeah, I just got a bunch of mana to do other things I want to do. Yeah, and you get 1+1/+1/+1 for all your elves too. So.
Well, there you go. I was going to say one thing Elves doesn't have problems with is mana.
No.
You're in a really bad spot if you have mana issues with Elves.
Yeah, that's why there's no mana rocks in this deck. It's just all
you
elf,
don't need it.
Elf mana.
You don't. All your Elves also tap for mana.
Yeah.
Next one you have here for ramp is Tyvar Kell, which is one of the new Planeswalkers. 2 green and green for legendary Planeswalker Tyvar. Elves you can control have tap, add a black. There we go, right there.
Yeah.
For its +1, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target elf. Untap it. It gains Death Touch until end of turn. Its 0 is create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token, and it's -6. Its ultimate is you get an emblem with whenever you cast an elf spell, it gains haste until end of turn, and you draw 2 cards. It has 3 loyalty.
This is just a perfect elf planeswalker. I mean, it's in Golgari colors. You have to run Tyvar. It's just, I mean, you just make them all mana rocks for black.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're going to use this to make a bunch of tokens if you need them, because that's what this deck wants to do a lot of. But, I mean, if you need to get an elf to get through, give it a counter and give it Death Touch, and you're going after that -6, you can get there. I actually did in a game of Brawl one time, because I've been, to mess with these cards a little bit, I on Arena, I built a Brawl deck, Tyvar Kell at the helm. And one time I got to that, and that's really nasty if you can get to that -6, because with that emblem out, you're just, the card draw advantage is insane. But yeah, Tyvar Kell, man.
Next, we'll move on to synergistic card draw. You got another, I believe, newer one here. Pact of the Servant. It's 1 black and a black. Sorcery, choose a creature target player draws X cards and loses X life for X number of creatures they control of the chosen type.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, I'm noticing if you go and you can click on the deck tech below, or the Arca deck below, and you can see there's a lot of cards that have changed out. But when we're looking for the synergy cards, a lot of these cards they've already had in the deck. This was one of them. It's just so good. Like, for 3 mana, you are going to draw. I mean, at worst, probably 1 or 2. But even then, it's not a bad rate. And at most, you can draw like several cards off this if you got a bunch of elves out. So that's a really big card draw spell. Even for black and green, it's a good card draw spell.
I think we're going to see, especially if it's not specific to elves, we're going to see more of this in our tribal decks in the future. Another great card is Beast Whisperer. 2 green and green for a creature elf druid. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. It's a 2/3. This is fantastic. I love the reprint here too.
Yeah, classic. It's the reprint. It came in the deck. It's an elf. Every time you cast an elf, you get a card. I mean, what's not to like?
You can't go wrong with that. And then the other big one we have is an old favorite, Skull Clamp for 1 generic artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/-1. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. It has equip for 1.
Yeah, and if you're in any deck where you're making tokens, 1/1 tokens, you have to run Skull Clamp. Like, have to. Like, if you're not, it's like, what are you doing? Because it's you just leave it on the battlefield. You need it to draw a card. You just attach it to your 1/1, and boom, you kill it. You got it. And especially in this kind of strategy, if you also have your Poison Tip Archer out at the same time, you're also draining. So you're drawing, you're draining, you're drawing, you're draining. It can get way out of hand. Yeah, and then plus, actually, you can, with Tyvar Kell out, you can tap the elf for the 1 mana to attach it to the tapped elf. Can you do that?
Yes, you definitely
which will
can.
then kill it.
Yes.
And then you can tap another elf to attach it to itself. You can tap it to attach it to itself in this deck. So yeah, you definitely want Skull Clamp in this deck.
Scary stuff, Joel. Next, we'll move on to our synergy with single target removal. Here's a classic. It's Reclamation Sage, 2 and a green for a creature elf shaman. When Reclamation Sage enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. It's a 2/1.
Again, in the deck already, it's just the most synergistic. Again, we added, if you go to the Architect, there's a bunch of other new cards in here that we put in. That makes a deck worth about $250 or so. So upgrades in there. But Reclamation Sage is synergistically, it's the card you want. It's an elf. It destroys things. It's great.
I was going to say, Joel, we didn't have a chance to talk about at the beginning of the talk, but I notice a lot of that value is in the land base because it's the lands you happen to have. I think you can lower the price a decent amount if we just take some of these really expensive lands out. I noticed 2 or 3 that are around $10 that because you're in with elves, you can probably get away with an extra forest or an extra swamp there instead.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Another great single target removal that's synergistic is Ruthless Winower. It's 3 black and a black for a creature elf rogue. Beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a non-elf creature. It's a 4/4.
Yeah, and I believe this is a new card built for the deck, and I always like those cards that like make the other person sacrifice a creature, and it's like, yeah, and it says if each player's upkeep, right? So if it was your upkeep and you had Seaborn Muse, you'd kind of be screwed. You don't want to play it, but that's the only card in this deck that's not an elf. So
Yeah.
that's the only one you got to worry about. Every other one, it's like most of the time you're going to put this out there, and unless they remove it, people are going to be losing a few things.
Yeah, it's that. And even in general, that's a scary card. I have something like that in my zombie deck that has a similar effect, except it's an enchantment that makes everyone sacrifice all the non-zombies. And oh boy, does everyone start hating you when you play that card.
Yeah. It's hard to get around those cards that are just like make you sacrifice or make you discard. That's what makes black kind of like that oppressive, but it's kind of hard not to want to play them, especially when it's also an elf. Oh wait, it's a rogue too. I can slide this in my rogue. No, I couldn't because I don't have elf.
Doesn't help you so much in the rogue deck. So next we'll move on to our synergistic board wipe.
Yes.
First one we have is a favorite, but boy, man, the price on this one, financial price, just keeps going up.
Yes.
It's Kindred Dominance. It's 5 black and a black for a sorcery. Choose a creature type, destroy all creatures that aren't of the chosen type. They need to reprint this card, Joel. I thought it was expensive when it was up at $15. Now it's dancing around $25 to $30.
Yeah, I know it's a pricey card, but it's so good. If you're in a tribal deck that has black, you want to play Kindred Dominance. It's a one-sided board wipe, and then in black, a lot of your board wipes are more expensive anyway. So to pay $7, especially in elf deck, you're not gonna have a problem doing that. One-sided, yep. I think that we didn't put it in here, but I think the other one's is it in Garruk's Wake or whatever is also a one-sided. I think it costs 2 mana more, but again, in this deck, you're not going to have a hard time getting there. So it's nice.
That's a built-in one-sided, but this is the perfect deck for it, Joel, because you make so much mana with elves. It's not as hard a hurdle to hit as 9 mana would normally be otherwise. And Garruk's Wake, I guess I'll say the card real quick. It's 7 black and a black for sorcery, just as destroy all creatures you don't control and all planeswalkers you don't control. So it's specifically a one-sided board wipe.
Can I pull it up? Yep, there it is.
Gonna make Joel work.
It is very specifically a one-sided board wipe. But yeah, because it's so pricey. But yeah, like you said, with elves, because especially if you got Tyvar-Kellet, all your elves tap for black. So there you go.
No problem with that. The other one we had was a creature, Elvish Dreadlord, 3 black and a black for a creature elf or zombie elf, has Death Touch, and when Elvish Dreadlord dies, non-elf creatures get -3/-3 until end of turn. It also has Encore for 5 black and a black. It's a 3/3, and Encore says, exile this creature card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks the opponent this turn if able. They gain haste and sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as sorcery. So, the first time you'll play this, it'll be 9/9, but in a 4-person game, all of a sudden, that will get pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, This was a new card for Commander Legends. I'm surprised they didn't put it in the deck in the precon. I just think this is such a great card. Because like the -3/-3, you might get a little bit of a board wipe effect going on there, and it says non-elf, so you're safe. But that encore, my God, dude, if you can get that encore out, -9, because with encore you'll get 3 of these if you're playing a 4-player game. They all come out and then they all die. Yeah. Plus you got the Aristocrat thing going on. You're just getting bonus after bonus, but the -9 the entire board, like.
That's a board wipe.
Yeah, this is almost like a board wipe twice if you're lucky, kind of thing.
Yeah. If you can maneuver it a little bit, definitely can. The other thing we really recommend doing is adding some recursion and protection synergy into the deck. Mm-hmm. We got a great one here. Return Upon the Tide. It's 4 and a black. It says sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's an elf, create a 2/1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens, and has foretell for 3 in a black.
Yeah, and I can't remember if this came in it or not. It's definitely part of the new Kaldheim set, but it's perfect synergy for recursion. There's a few different ways to recur in this deck, but this one's great, and I find that foretell thing I think is more useful than not. Because a few times I've used it, at least playing with it, it's like I've gone turn 2 or 3 and going, I don't have anything to play. Oh wait, I could just foretell this for later. So it's like you almost feel like you get a little bit of extra value, and then you pay just a little bit less to get pretty cool effect.
Another hot take we're going to see foretell in Commander for the foreseeable future. It kind of reminds me of cycling in that a lot of cards are just a little extra better because they have it. A lot of things that you're on the fence about, you'll take the foretell version. So we're definitely going to see it in our future. The other card you have here, Joel, is Azuri Renegade Leader for 1 green and a green. It's a legendary creature elf warrior. For green, regenerate another target elf. And for 2 green, elf creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. It's a 2/2.
There you go. One of your classic elf commanders right here, right?
Absolutely.
And it's so good because the regenerate is really good, especially with Lathril out, right? Because Lathril is going to become a target. We have a few other cards that protect, but this is the most synergistic because it's an elf. But to kind of keep Lathril around. But it's also got that overrun thing, which we'll talk about later. But Azuri, great card.
Yeah, and actually, since we're kind of on it, we can move into alt win cons, Joel. What are some alt win cons in your deck?
So I think the alt win cons is what we're kind of talking about right here, is the overrun effect, right? So you just want to basically, if you're not able to tap things out and drain your opponent, you can pump all your elves up and just swing in for the win.
Yeah, and you have a card here, Elvish War Master, 1 and a green creature elf warrior. Whenever 1 or more other elves enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn and has 5 green and green. Elves you control get +2/+2 and gain death touch until end of turn. It's a 2/2. So this is a perfect example of that overrun effect that you were talking about.
Yeah, this is the most synergistic card to do all that. It makes elves, and it has the overrun, and that death touch is not a joke, because if you got like 10 elves out there, and even though you're only pumping them by 2 and they're all 3/3s, but a bunch of 3/3 death touchers, it's even if somebody tries to throw a bunch of blockers in, you're just going to knock them all out of the way. So the War Master is great. Love this card.
And then I see you added in everyone's favorite, Triumph of the Hordes.
Oh, there's a
2 green
again.
and green.
Oops. Yep.
So we can do it. We talk about Azuri again.
I got rid of it. It also has overrun on it, but yeah. No, go ahead. Triumph of the Hordes.
I was going to say Triumph of the Hordes, 2 green and green for a sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and infect.
Yes. And I mainly added this because I had Triumph of the Hordes, and I was like, I'm going to stick this in my deck. And then I thought about, this is a really great win con, because it's like, if nothing else works, like if people just start getting rid of Lathril, getting rid of all your cards, you're like, oh God. And then you just got 10 elves sitting around, 10 1/1s, and now you lost all your key pieces. Play this. There you go. Trample infect. You can knock out anybody in the game. And if you got even more creatures, then you can knock out a bunch more. So, but yeah, Triumph of the Hordes. It's mean, but it's my only infect card I play in any of my decks. So,
That's the only infect card you need,
That's
Joel.
Pretty much.
Anyway.
Hey, I
don't
liked
mean to
my
bash
excuse, Alex.
it. No, you're good.
I only play one infect card.
I don't get to poke you very much on the podcast. I'm doing it here.
There you go.
So, Joel, tell us some weaknesses for the deck after Trample of the Hordes.
Yeah, so weaknesses. Well, the hordes might come at you if they're flying. So that is one of the built-in weaknesses. I think I have one Reacher. It came with the deck, the Poison Tip Archer. And there's removal, single target removal and stuff if you have to deal with flyers. But if you got persistent flyers on the other end of the board, good. Yeah, you better get going quick because it's not built for that, or to defend against that, I should say.
Yeah.
Very well. And the other weakness is, like you said, elves are just naturally really powerful. And then Aristocrat is also, people know that to be kind of a powerful, nasty kind of way. So you might become enemy number one pretty quickly if people see you playing elves or playing Aristocrat strategy, especially if you can get like an Ashnod's Altar out quickly. I noticed that when you play Aristocrat, if you got Ashnod's Altar and you put it out, or you start having like things like all your pieces start coming out, people just start targeting you right away. So that could be another weakness, depending on your play group and how you play.
Well, there you go. The deck is so good they have to take you out, which very much so. This is a scary deck you have here, Joel. Speaking of scary deck, let's make it worse. Easy upgrades. What do we got?
All right, so if you want to upgrade this deck, again, if you go, and we've already upgraded a bunch. If you look, I almost, after we made the show, I'm realizing as we're talking, like a lot of these cards already came with the deck. But if you go through and look through a bunch of our upgrades in the Arc deck, you'll see that we beefed it up a bit. But there's other cards. If you have more cash lying around, or really you have these cards lying around, you can add Oracle of Moldiah, which they need to reprint because it's like, what, $35 or whatever right now. But it's a creature elf shaman, and Adobe Flash Player wants to update. This is real time right there. Okay. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, play with the top card of your library revealed, and you may play lands from the top of your library. It's a 2/2. Yeah, Oracle Moldiah is going to be great in any deck, and if you haven't ramped it fast enough, or you don't have enough card advantage, which you will, you could just add this and make it even that much better. The other two ways, you want to read the next card? The other two ways to really build it up is with ramp or lands.
We have Agadeem's Awakening was one of the lands you pointed out specifically, which is definitely an upgrade. God, this is probably the scariest one out of that cycle. Agadeem's Awakening on one side is a lovely land, and on the other one is X black and a black for X black black black. I'm sorry, for a sorcery. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards. Each have a different mana cost converted X or less. And the opposite side is the pay 3 life, and if you don't enters tap, but it's otherwise can tap for a black mana.
Yeah, so it's a land. Man, this thing's gone up to almost $20, 20-something bucks now. It's just a really good card, and you can use. There's a lot of other really expensive lands that'll just make it faster lands. This is just a really cool land as far as like, oh, you killed a bunch of my stuff. Oh, I'm just gonna bring it all back. Okay, sorry. And it doesn't really take up a slot because it takes up a land slot. So powerful card on a land slot. You just with these kind of dual face cards, I notice you have to be willing, if you have this in your opening hand, to just play it as a land. Like you have this early game, you have it, just think of it as land. Don't get greedy and hold on to it. If you need a land drop, play it. But yeah. And then another way to upgrade is to add some tutors. And here's an awesome tutor, Fauna Shaman. 1 green for a creature elf shaman. If for a green you can tap it, you can discard a creature card and search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. It's a 2/2. So if you want to go, you need to go get that Poison Tip Archer, or you need to go get a certain kind of card, a creature card. You need to go get that Seaborn Muse. You have Fauna Shaman. It's another way to quickly get one of your win cons. So if you have other tutors, you can add to it. If you play that way, to more quickly get to your win is another way to upgrade.
And a warning here too, especially there's so many good tutors in Elves. This will significantly, adding tutors, increase the power level of the deck. So a word of warning, if you have a powerful group and that's not going to bother in the slightest, go ahead with it, go forward with it. If you have a more casual group like we do, be very careful with adding tutors, especially in Elves. Because if you can find the perfect elf you need all the time, and it exists in Elves, that perfect elf, all of a sudden you may just be sitting there as archenemy more often than you'd like to be.
Exactly. So, yep. I mean, it's hard to mess up Elves, like you said, right? So that's why you said I can go ahead and do this deck tech right at the beginning.
Well, you go ahead and do all the deck techs you want, Joel. I have no control over it. But I wanted to, the one thing I'll say is it's fantastic for the newer player because, again, it is hard. Elves naturally wants to help each other. Picking a good elf commander, leaning into it, you're going to make a powerful deck. This is a great example of it on Joel's first go-around with Elves. I mean, this is... I was talking to him about toning it down, not toning it up. He's like, I don't know if it's good enough. I'm like, trust me, it is. That's not the issue here. It's the other direction. Is it too powerful for our group? Is it too powerful for the average player? So definitely, if you have a more powerful group, not a worry in the slightest for Elves. And if you have a more lenient group, just keep in mind, talk with your group, and if you're a newer player, figure out the power level of your elf deck, because that'll be it might just be a trial and error thing, but it's a life lesson in there.
Yeah, and if you really, I mean, I don't know who would want to do this, but if you really wanted to weaken this deck, take out all the Aristocrat style cards, all the draining cards. Yeah. So the poison tip, the other one, and then just make it, I have to tap my elves, and then I have to overrun you or something. But I think it played really. I played you 1-on-1 against. You had a really good deck too.
I purposely. Joel's like, I'm gonna play my new elf deck, and I'm like, cool. I've seen this deck, Joel. I think I got to throw one of my more powerful 1v1 decks in on it, and I won barely. With one of my more powerful decks, and I was like, it's not that your deck's not powerful, Joel. I had to go all out to barely scrape through it.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice how elves just want to be strong. So
they want to be so powerful.
So have fun with your elves. Have fun with your Lathril. I mean, make a Lathril deck. I mean, seriously, even if you don't want to like look at what we did or whatever, like if you just bought this thing and played it out of the box, and then you just happen to have a bunch of elves lying around, just shove the ones you like in it. There you go. You're done. Like, I think if they play that well together, just get a bunch of elves together, and they're gonna,
This was a perfect deck to come out in the before times, that you could just literally open the deck out, walk down to your local game store, heck, buy it while you're there, and turn around and play it. And it's powerful enough. It'll go toe to toe with a lot of big decks. You can just have a couple more elves to add into it. Elves great strategy.
There you go. Well, thank you guys for listening to us. Hopefully you get some cool ideas for your elf decks. Again, if you have ideas for like different shows or whatnot, I'm just gonna plug again. Just like leave a comment. Let us know. We're definitely in for some new ideas. We do have some more cool deck techs coming around for you. Maybe we'll do that really powerful one you did against me there, Alex. What was that? What commander was that? The new Thor commander?
That was the new Thor. I decided to make a deck, Marvel Thor kind of thing, but with the magic style, and really make a deck around him. And we've done mono red a lot lately, which is kind of funny because that was kind of hurting right when we started the podcast. But I'll probably throw that up here at some point. If anything, again, it's a little too powerful. It's a lot better in a 4-man than in the 1v1. I knew it was too powerful in the 1v1. That's one of the reasons I threw it at your elves. Because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to even do anything this game. Let me throw what I can at it. And I'm pretty sure I got you on more technicalities than anything else, Joel. I was like, I got to wipe 3 things in a row and then got one of my ideal cards. That was the only reason I even won that. You would have steamrolled me.
That and Stuffy Doll I was not happy with.
Yes. I did. I abused Stuffy Doll too. I was like, I'm just gonna not punch Joel's thing. I'm gonna punch Stuffy Doll, and that'll transfer to Joel.
That's what you want to do. So thank you guys. Please subscribe. Again, leave a comment, and we really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, and again, we're a small channel. If you're thinking of picking up some of these cards, pick up the Commander deck from somewhere. Maybe think about using our affiliate link with TCG Player. We're tiny, and it really helps us out when you do it. And trust us, it really helps. It gets us going. We're like, oh yeah, we get all excited.
We love the moral support.
Yes, very much so.
So much so. Okay, guys, thank you. Until next time.
Enjoy your elves. See ya.